Hello everyone. In this video, we will discuss what are HTTP status codes. Before that, we will understood what is HTTP. It is kind of an communication protocol. Means it acts as a communication protocol between your client and server. For example, if you are using browser, if you are entering any URL, if you suppose enter any Geeks for Geeks website, so you enter into the browser. So browser act as a client. Then that URL is sent to the server, which server, if the URL is validated by the server, then it checks what are the related things which he can map to that URL and sends back to the HTTP response, by which we can get our related websites which what we have entered. So in the right hand side, you can see the complete flow. Means client and browser, means if you are testing such kind of APIs, so you can use Postman also. Then you enter any URL such as, like, if you want to search Geeks for Geeks, then you enter HTTP request, means geeksforgeeks.com or what kind of things, anything. Then that request is sent to the server. Then server validates the request. It checks the request is valid or not, related information is available or not to the server, and how he can validate and he can map to that your request and sends back to the HTTP response with that response code. HTTP also, for example, server gives the status code for the request which we are entered. For example, we will see a demo. Suppose if I search Geeks for Geeks, so this HTTP request is sent to the server and I quickly get the response. So what are the role of HTTP codes? Suppose if I go on inspects and if I go on to the network tab, so here in these things you can see the status codes. You can see some are like 200, some are 204, some are 304, some are like in such kind of way. So it means like such kind of status codes are sent by the server when you enter such kind of information which you ask to the server to give. So server gives the responses and also gives the status code, means the request which you have been asked is successfully received by the server and the server have processed the information and sent back to the response. So here comes the concept of HTTP codes. So there are certain families or series of HTTP codes which starts from 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Suppose if you see such kind of errors which starts from 100 series, for example, here you can see the status codes are like 100, 101, 102, 103. So each status codes has something meaning related to its number. For example, if the status code are starting from 100 series, so it means that the request is received by the server and the server is processing it. Means, and these errors or these codes are not seen by the end users. It just insight to the server only. For example, if you see if a status code of the HTTP request which you have been entered is 100, it means that what is its meaning? It is means is continue. Means the request is received by the server, but the server is still processing that request and it is showing 100, which is the status code of that response. And if it is 101, it will say switching protocols. If it is 102, it will say processing 10D early hints. For example, for now I will just explain in theoretical way, but we will do a practical, means every status codes to represent how it comes. It is if for that we need real servers and not. But what I have done, I can show you with Postman by using some API testing. For that I have created one small project. In the later video we will discuss it. Now we will see all the series. So now the second series starts from 200. What does it means? It means that the server has received the request and it has processed it and sent back to the response to the client or from where the request has been entered. So for that, all the request or all the status code which are starting from 200, it means that everything is worked successfully. Means the server have received the request, it has processed the information and sent back to the response. But in that, if the status code is 200, it means everything is worked successfully. The response is sent to the client. If the response is 201, it can say it like created. For example, if you are using any applications, if you register into a website, if you suppose if you are registering your email address to one of the website, so you can say that the request has successfully means happened successfully work and your account has been added. So at that time your account has been created, so the server will process it and send back to response 201, which is your account has been created. Such that there are different status codes such as 202, which is accepted, 204, which is no content. Now here in a detailed example way, I have shown you, like for example, if a status code is 200, what we can do. So for what does it mean? It stands for everything is successful. Means the request has been received by the server and it has processed it and sent back to the response. For example, if you are trying to log in into some website and you successfully log in, then the status code or the server will send back to the response. Means you can redirect to your login page and all these things. At that time, when you will log in, if you successfully log in, then you will get a 200 response. Means the status code means this status code are not like you can see onto the network tab if it is possible or not, but it is to test that the server which the request which you have been entered has been successfully processed by the server or not. For that thing which can be easily handled according to the codes, like what kind of error. So for that different codes are there, and for that code different errors or some kind of successful response is mapped. For example, the next status code is 201, which is like created what does it mean? For example, if you register a new user, upload image, add product, if this response is successfully, then you can say the status code from the server will get 201. Such kind of things, like if the status code is 202, which is like accepted, what does it means? For example, the request is accepted but processing happens later. For example, if you are using ChatGPT and if you enter if you, for example, if you write a prompt to ChatGPT to generate me a video, or to Gemini, so what kind, your request has been sent and the server is processing, means after sending the prompt, then the Gemini or ChatGPT server is processing that request. That kind of thing you will get 202 error. Such kind of things, like there is one more error from 200 series, is 204, which can say that no content. What does it mean? Means your request which you have been entered is succeeded but nothing to return. Means if you enter something and it is successfully received by the server, but server does not have anything to return you. For example, you delete any user or delete product or log out. If you log out, then the server does not think to return you. At that time, 204 error, or this not error, these are the status code. So what I have done, so if I go through all the status code step by step, it will take a long time. So I have created images for all the status codes. So these are starting from 200 series, as we have discussed the two status code which are starting from 200 series, 200, 201, 202, 204, such kind of things. All the detailed example or description examples, real world examples, what does it means, what are the common uses of it, are described in this image. Such kind of things. Next series which starts from status code 300. So here are also errors such as you can see here 301, 302, 303, 304, 307, 308. So all the status codes which are starting from 300 are directed, or it means like they are used for the redirection purpose. For example, if one website is mapped to one domain and they have shifted to the new domain, at that time the redirection of the URL happens. At that time this error occurs. So there are some different errors in that redirection. You can see if the error is 301, then you can see that the status is moved permanently. Means in the example you can see old website moved to a new domain. So old domain is there and they had shifted, or anyone if they enter old domain name, they can be redirected to the new domain name. At that time 301 error appears. Such kind, so if there are 302 errors, 3034, 37, 38, so you can read it. You can, I will also upload this PPT into the description box, or if you comment, I will share the drive link, or if possible I can see different possible solutions for how I can give you this PPT and all these things. Such kind of if the status code are starting from 400 series, these are dedicated to the client. Means these are errors which have been happen from our side. For example, 404 is most common error we get in our browser. If you enter any wrong URL, then the Google or the server of Google will show you that 404 not found. Means if you enter x for x, and if you enter slash something, anything number or something which does not have any content, then it will show you 404 error. So such kind of things, like there are different status code, you can read it. And then the next series which is from 500, which are dedicated to the server side errors, which are not have been created from our side. These are generated from the server. For example, the server or the status code 500, it means that internal server error. For example, if you are using any Python backend or any backend, if it collapse, if you are running any project in local host or any kind of things, at that time if you run your backend and it crashes, so at that time you can see if you are sending a request from the front end but the backend crashes, so you can see a 500 error status code, which means that internal server error. For example, unexpected error or exception in the applications. If the status code is 501 not implemented, means API feature not implemented on the server side, means the communication between front end and back end. Then the 502 means bad gateway, means like server is down or return an invalid response from the server side. 503 means, for example, the server is on maintenance and the service is unavailable from the server. Such kind of things are there in the status codes. So there are, like, for example, there are total 5 series we have discussed from 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Each series have their own meaning, how they are how this error comes. So now what we can do, I will show you some of the practical examples. So as you can see, if you enter some gigs for gigs website or any kind of URL, you have to go into the networks tab. You can see here the status code are visible 200, 304, means that the response from the server has came in the status code, which is not visible to us, but some kind of status codes we can see here. But like, for example, the informations means the status code which starts from 100 we cannot see because it is hidden from the, or it is not rarely seen by the end users and all these things. But we can see the status codes from 200 series, 300, 400, 500 series. So for that, what I have done, to show you how this error comes. So I have created one, like, for example, I have used Flask, which is like a framework of Python for using a web application and RESTful APIs. So what I have done, like, for example, I will use Postman, from which I will enter URL and I will test the URL, and for that I need server. For example, if I use without Flask to create it, so I have to create server. I have to how can I handle the HTTP request? How can I communicate between the URL with the front end and all these things? So I have used Flask, which automatically handles inbuilt the server. It starts the server, it handles the requests, it receives the requests, and it executes the functions also. So I have created here, like for example, you can see. So for example, for 200 status code, so what I have done, I have assigned here method which is get, and I have here enter the, for example, endpoint which is success, and this app.route is like a, for example, it is a decoder which can like handle by the Flask. So for that I have created for each error. So what are the possible errors I can show you? For example, for that I have open Postman. So for what we will do here, so for example, suppose this is my browser and I am entering something. So what I will do, I am requesting to the server, such as what I will do, I will here put, I have entered such that here I have entered here URL. So what I will do, if the method, you can see here the method is get, I have entered this URL, I am running this my server on, you can see here I am running this, you can see here HTTP status code demo API status is running successfully from my name. Okay, so what we will do, I will enter this URL. I have entered it, and here you can see the request has been successfully, you can see, I will zoom it. So here you can see I have used the method get, and I have entered the endpoint success which I have been declared in the project. You can see that is what kind of project is supporting. For example, I am entering this URL. This URL has to be received by the server. So for that, Flask provides a server. It receives, it automatically start the server. It receives the HTTP request. So this is an HTTP request. For example, http.127.0001500 success. So success is one of the endpoints which I have been declared, and also I am declared the method is get. For example, if the method for success is get, and if I am using post, and if I am for example, if I am sending this, then the status code which is 200 here, it will change, because like the method which is, you can see 40405 method not allowed. Why? Because we have declared for the 200, you can see here for the 200 status code, we have declared here the method is get, and if we are using the method post which is not allowed, so then the server will send the request or send the status code 405, means the method is not allowed. If I again go back to the get method, and if I send that request, then the server will process it and send back the correct status code which is 200, because we have declared in that sense. So for the 200 series, the first status code we have declared here which is 200. For example, what we can do, so if we want to see 201, so what I will do, I will create the endpoint which is create, which is already declared into the code in kind of server, and we will write in the body, like for example, we have to choose here raw, and if you have to choose here the JSON format, because the browser, or for example the browser can like understand only JSON format, and it is a standard format used, like it is a key value pair, so it is properly understood by the server and all these things. So what I will do, I will create here, I will create here my name, and what I will do, I will send this request. But if you can see, if I does not change the method, if it is get and if I send, then it will show different error which is like 405. Why? Because method not allowed. Because if we are creating this, we have to add this request, so we have to change the request, we have to use put, means we have to add it. If I'm sending this, so what is happening, you can see 201 which is created, means what I have done, I have the key which is name, and the value for it, it's Ajay. So what is, I have added this into the server, so that you can see in the response which is sent by the server, the data which is the server has been added is Ajay, and the message from the server is resource created successfully. And you can see here the status code which is 201 which is created, means a new source was created successfully. So previously, if you want get data and the server then the server sends the data correctly, it will show 200 error status code, not error status code. And if you want to try to add something, if you want to create, if you want to register new one, then the status code from the server is 201 which is created successfully. Then I will see different status code. If for example, if I want to try, like we will try 400 series from, means it is a client error from our side. So what I will do, I will try to log in directly. If I enter any login URL such as, and if I am using such as for login, I think so get request will be there. So what I will do, I will choose your body none, and I will send this request. So what I will get, so you can see here without having any like for example, for login, if I'm directly accessing the URL, it will show 401 error from the client side, which is unauthorized invalid token. For example, if you are trying to access directly the admin page or login page, then you can see that it is unauthorized tokens from the server. If I'm trying to directly, if I'm a student and I'm accessing the admin page directly, so it will again show me the 401 which is unauthorized, or 403 forbidden, because these errors are strictly from the server which we have been put. So now we have seen 200 status code, 2201, 401, 403. Now we will see 405 error. For that, what we can do, I will do here register. If I am if I'm using register, and for register we have to use the post request. What I will do, I will send this request. So what it can show, like for example, for the register, if I'm sending post request, then what it will do, it will show 4015 unsupported media type, because what we can see, if you come in the code, what we have done. So if you have to go to the 405 error, what we have been declared there. So you can see we have put here like method not accepted or post request, but the endpoint is only post. If you are using different endpoint for different, you can get unsupported media type. For example, here register is not there. What we can do, we can give here only post. And if I enter this, so what we can give, so you can see here the method post accepted 200 successfully if you are using the correct method and the endpoint. For example, now what we will do for that. Now we will see 404 which is not found. If I enter such kind of things, for example, product/1. So if for this I will use the get request. So for example, these are the like types of HTTP methods: get, post, put, patch, delete, from which we can update data, delete data, get data, or modify, delete, all these things. So what I will do, I have already added one product. If I am getting it, I will get a 200 response successfully, and I will get those product which is successfully laptop. But if I enter different URL, so what I will do, so because only one product is saved in our server, and if I'm accessing the second product, it will show 404, which is, you can see the 404 which is not found, means the product not found because it is not available at the server, or we have not added it. So now what we will do, we will see some kind of 500 series error which are from the server side. So what we will do, we will give a server error, server error. So what we have to do. So I have entered here server, and if I am clicking on get, so you can see here what I will get. So you can see find internal server error. For example, if you are running anything, your backend crashes, or like for example, if you are using Python backend, the Python backend crashes. If you have any Java exception or node crashes or database issues, so internal server, from the server side, the server sends this 500 status code. So such kind of errors which I have been shown, like which can be possible from my side to show you. I have shown you from 200 series, from 400 series, 500 series. So you have to just like most of the errors, like for example 404, 200, 201, and redirection errors, or 404 from status codes from 400 series, 500 series. Most of we can see in the real world. You can see here all this. If you want to try, what I will do, I will upload this whole Python code to the GitHub, and in the description I will give the, like for example, GitHub link. You can clone it, or you can download the complete folder. You can download into your PC. You can run. You have to just simply create a virtual environment, and you have to run the Python app. Then you can have a Postman app, because if you are using online Postman, then it will be difficult to connect to the localhost, because we are running it from localhost. So it will difficult for the online version of that Postman to connect to the localhost. So it is better you can download the desktop app of Postman, and simply for testing purpose, what are the possible errors or the possible status code possible from my side, I have shown you each status codes. You can see, if you want to try, you can go on the Chrome. We can see here all the status code. For example, if I tried something different, if I search lead code prods, then this status codes will be changed according to the request which we have been entered to the server. So for example, this browser is a client, I have entered the URL, then this HTTP request is sent to the server of the Google, then this Google server will send the response to us in our browser, and by sending the response, it will also generate the status codes. Means, what does the status code means? What kind of response the server has sent. If it is 200, then the response is successfully given. If it's 300, the redirection is there. If it is 400, then it is from our side, the error is given. If it is comes in 500 series, then it is from the server side. All these errors have a specific meanings. You have to understood it. I will share this PPT into the description. I will upload drive. If you want, you can access it from there. Thank you for this video.